Hi guys, in this video I'm going to be sharing with you some tips and tricks on how to study for finals. So tip number one is to organize your stuff. I think the biggest problem personally for me is not knowing where to start or how to study off of this just overload of information and piles of notes and papers that I have. So for each subject, I'll go through all the notes I have accumulated over the year, and I'll throw away all the stuff that I don't need, meaning just useless papers, extra reviews, or stuff that won't really help me, and I'll keep all the tests, quizzes, reviews, study guides, really important notes that I've taken, or helpful homework assignments, and I'll keep those. So for each subject, I think every subject there's a different way to teach that subject. So for example, in math, most of the textbooks go through the information by chapters, whereas some other subjects like chemistry, they have units where in each unit they go through a list of different information and different formulas and stuff. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll show you. So for example, my chemistry binder. So these are all the notes that I'm throwing out. It's quite a lot, so it's good to get rid of all this extra stuff that would just only get in your way and just waste your time when you're flipping through your binder trying to study. And it's also helpful to it's also nice to go through all of your notes, because then it kind of refreshes your memory on what you've done over the year. So for my chemistry binder, this is my binder, and inside, this is what it looks like. So right here, I have the periodic table, and then I have just a bunch of quizzes and tests from over the year. I like to keep it in the front. So next, I organize all of my notes by using these tab dividers. I like to use the ones that are erasable, because then you can reuse them all the time, and it's also easier to just erase these and rewrite whatever thing you need to write there for the next year. It's a lot easier than using the little tabs that you stick in. Those I find I lose them a lot. So this is just more convenient in my opinion. And so I separate everything by units, because that's how the teacher taught everything over the year. So the first one, it would just be chem safety information. The next one would be the water unit. Next one would be materials or elements on the periodic table. Then the next one would be petroleum, and the last one is air. So I basically go through all of the, okay, this is how I did it. I went through all of the notes or papers that I was given throughout the year. I kept the ones that were the most helpful. We do a lot of section review homework assignments. For example, something like this from the textbook. And it kind of looks like a study guide for the section that we went through. And these are a lot more helpful than having just random worksheets full of just practice problems, because those won't really help as much. They don't really tell you much information. They're just there for practice. So it's good to keep some of those, but I think in terms of trying to refresh your memory, trying to restudy or relearn all of this stuff, it's more helpful to keep the actual notes that you get. Now, for math, it's a little bit different for me. My teacher likes to have a bunch of handouts in terms of homework instead of giving us actual note sheets, so I like to write everything in a notebook. Now, what I like to do over the year is, before taking any test, we usually get tests on each chapter that we learn, so I will make up a little study guide. So right here I have, it's called Chapter 9, and I'll go through each section in the math textbook, and I'll write down important information that we learned, any definitions. I'll have key points that will help me. You don't have to do chapter by chapter like I did, because I did this over the year. It's a lot easier, but when it's time to study for final, it's kind of like crunch time. You don't really have that much time to write a study guide for each and every chapter. So what I like to do is just, or what you could do instead is just go through the entire textbook, write down just the key things that you learned over the year, like how to solve this or whatever sections you went over, and then just write down all the new equations that you learned and then study from that. It's really great to just quickly look through those notes before taking the test just to refresh your memory, and I think you'll be a lot more efficient in terms of studying this way. And it's also nice to go through any problems or homework assignments that you've had over the year and write them all down on a piece of paper, write down the answers on another side, and it's also important to make sure you write down all the problems that you got wrong. This way when you study, you'll be able to learn from your mistakes. Or, yeah, so I mean, whatever you got right beforehand, you'll probably get right now. So try to correct those mistakes that you may have had before. Next, for languages, this is my Spanish binder. What I like to do for language is I like to separate. Ooh, everything's backwards. Interesting. Okay, I like to separate my information that I've gotten into two categories. I have one for grammar and one for vocabulary. Okay, in the front section I have all of my notes for grammar, right here, and then I separate everything with this folder. I keep all my tests and graded essays in here, and then I have all my random sheets or notes full of new vocab words that I learned. And yeah, that's basically how I organize my Spanish binder. There's not really much to organizing your binders. I'm just trying to give you guys an idea on how to organize it, because each subject is different, and the way teachers give out notes is kind of, it varies a lot. So I mean, this is just what works for me, just trying to give you guys some ideas. But let me know what works for you. It might make a difference for someone else. Just add that in the comment section below. Next, I have my American Studies or American History binder, and when it comes to organizing your binder for American history, I just take all of the notes or, things that we've done over the year, and I organize it in chronological order. So it goes from, like the colonial America all the way up to where we ended with, like, Hayes and those people. You can tell that I haven't started studying yet, but I mean, yep, from the beginning to the end of what we've learned so far. And then I have another section in the back full of primary documents, because my teacher loves giving us those, and we read a lot of them. So I just have all of these speeches and all the good stuff. Last but not least, my language arts or English binder. So I like to organize everything into 3 sections. I first have my writing section, and in my writing section I just basically have all of the notes that the teacher gave us over the years on how to write essays. So there's notes on like synthesizing quotes, different common writing errors that we should avoid doing, similes versus metaphors, a bunch of good vocab words to use, all that stuff. In the next one I have my grammar section. So I have like now the definition of all the parts of speech, different grammar practice stuff. He gave us like study guides too, so that's really helpful. And then last but not least, the reading section. So each year we read about 2 to 3 books, and we write a ton on each book. So right here I have like he gives us background information on the book and the era, so I have that stuff. We answer questions on the book, so it's nice to just, because we don't have the books with us right now, we have to give them back whenever we finish a book. So we read The Crucible this year, and we have a bunch of questions that we had to answer, so it's nice to refresh your memory and remember what actually happened in the book by reading through all your notes and stuff. Then I have my essays that I wrote on each book, different poems that we read. I have some of them we read short stories, so I actually have a short story with me. And yeah, that's my LA binder. Okay, and also in addition to grammar and reading and writing and all that stuff on our LA final, we have to have a vocabulary final. So, what I'd like to do to study vocab. We have these, we do it from these Sadler Oxford vocab books, but these books are kind of, well, not kind of, they're really annoying, but they basically give you the vocab words in a list right here, and then they'll give you a bunch of exercises to do with the vocab words. And it's kind of inconvenient to kind of like flip through a bunch of pages looking at all the vocab words, and it's not convenient when it comes to studying either, because I don't know, I find that I'm less efficient when I study from this actual book. So I like to make flashcards. There's like over 100 of them, but what I do is I write the word, the part of speech, and then on the back I will write the antonym and the synonym. So the synonyms up here, the antonyms down here. And you might as well just write the synonym instead of the definition, because synonyms, I mean, if you know what the synonym means, you basically know what the word itself means. I mean, most of the time it's like that, right? So that's basically how I study for vocabulary. I just have a bunch of flashcards. I know that if you guys use Sadler Oxford vocab books for your school, they have a website, and you can use their little practice games and quizzes on their website too to help study vocab. So that might help as well. Make sure you ask your teacher for any study guides, reviews, or extra problems that will help you when you're studying. Your teachers know what's going to be on the final, so ask them. They're going to want to help you, or hopefully, they're going to want to help you pass the final, and if you have any questions, just ask them. Just ask them. So if your teachers don't have any study guides or review packets to give to you, make your own study guide. So what I do to make my own study guide is that I go through the textbook, and I will first start off with the table of contents. The table of contents basically lists out everything that's in the textbook. And so by writing down stuff that's in the table of contents, you'll know what to study, right? And then I'll go through the textbook, each, section by section, and I'll write down important notes or formulas, definitions, etc. Stuff that we covered and will be helpful to remember, basically. So think of the study guide as a cheat sheet. Stuff that is really important goes on the study guide. You can add extra little problems that will be really helpful. As I mentioned earlier, go through your old notes as well and write down any problems that you got wrong. Then on a separate sheet of paper, write down all the answers. Then the next day, go back to that list of problems, redo all of them, and then check to see if you got them right. Whichever ones you didn't get right, do them again the next day. So this way you're correcting those mistakes that you made. You'll understand them better. If you do have any questions, ask your teachers, ask your friends. Look online, Google them. I mean, Google has the answers to all our problems now, doesn't it? Right? Last but not least, study with a friend. It's more fun when you're studying with your good friends. You'll be able to ask the other person questions. It's a lot easier too, because you don't have to like worry about cheating when you're studying with yourself. I know I have that problem with like some tests, like I'm trying to use my arm to cover up the paper, and then all of a sudden I move my arm back and I see the answer, I'm like, aha, it doesn't help. So yeah, study with a friend, and it'll be a lot more fun. So in conclusion, I hope you guys found this video somewhat helpful. So I mean, if you guys have any other tips and tricks when it comes to studying for any test in general, leave them in the comment section below. Good luck on your finals. I'm sure you guys will do fine. So just remember not to psych yourself out. I think that's probably the worst thing anyone could ever do. Give yourself some encouraging words, quotes, whatever, before you take your test. Get some good sleep, eat breakfast, and that's basically it. So good luck on your finals, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!